Here are the top stories for today, August 2nd, 2021. Motorists are urged to stay calm as traffic buildup is expected in the coming days. More workers are getting inoculated as the DOTR led the shortest route to the vaccination hub. Our very own Nesty Petecio goes for Olympic gold and glory tomorrow. And Ilocos Norte wastes no time in converting plastics into more useful ecobricks. Good day, I am William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. Long lines of vehicles are expected at quarantine control points during the implementation of enhanced community quarantine in the National Capital Region. The strictest quarantine status will start on Friday, August 6, as the government wants to avert the possible effect of the COVID-19 Delta variant. As such, motorists are advised to prepare the required documents and identification to be presented at the checkpoints. Border checkpoints have already been installed at NCR Plus areas to ensure that only essential travel and services and movement of goods are allowed. PNP Chief General Guillermo Lazar said they have already come up with the strategies to reduce the expected traffic buildup on Friday. He is also appealing to the motorists to be more patient as delays are imminent during checking at the control points. The Department of Health reiterates the need to place the National Capital Region under ECQ amid the threat of the COVID-19 Delta variant. It also warns fully vaccinated individuals not to become complacent as they can still be carriers of the more infectious disease. Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere said out of the more than 200 Delta variant carriers in the country, at least 28 are confirmed unvaccinated. She also emphasized the need to place the region under the strictest quarantine status based on the projections of experts.
Ang unang scenario na pinakita, kung meron tayong isang linggo na GCQ with heightened restrictions at pagkatapos susundan ng 3 linggo na ECQ. Ang isang scenario naman na pinakita rin ay 4 na linggo na hard lockdown. No? And dito po sa mga scenario, nakakita po ng increase in the number of cases from 18,000 to 30,000 plus cases. Yan ay naka-ECQ na po tayo. So ang sinasabi lang po natin, these lockdowns will help us prepare the system. But it is not going to control the spread. Kailangan pa rin po nating iprepara ang sistema, gawin po natin yung mga dapat nating gawin para ma-prevent na po natin ang further spread ng Delta variant na ito.
Faster and efficient vaccination drive. This is the target of the national government as it imposes the strictest community quarantine status in the National Capital Region. The government also warns the public against the threat of the COVID-19 Delta variant. The details from Marita Mawahay.
The national government will intensify mass vaccination in the National Capital Region and nearby provinces during the implementation of enhanced community quarantine status from August 6 to 20. Testing czar and Deputy Chief for the National Task Force Against COVID-19, Vince Dizon, confirms that the national government will provide 4 million doses of COVID-19 jabs to NCR and 2.5 million doses to nearby provinces such as Rizal, Laguna, Cavite, and Bulacan. He said NCR mayors committed to finishing administering all 4 million doses while under ECQ. Meanwhile, Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere said local government units may proceed on house-to-house visits if they have the resources to inoculate more people and lessen the crowd in vaccination areas. By doing this, Vergere said the National Capital Region might be able to vaccinate 70% of its population by September. Stricter community quarantine measures were put in place following the threat of the more infectious Delta variant, which has infected over 200 people in the Philippines. Vergere said the DOH cannot conclude yet that there is now a community transmission of the Delta variant pending enough evidence. For its part, the Philippine National Police will deploy its Medical Reserve Force or MRF in the vaccination during ECQ as additional manpower. PNP Chief General Guillermo Eleazar also directed the National Capital Region Police Office or NCRPO to prepare the deployment of additional cops and a contingency plan for the vaccination. He also ordered police commanders to coordinate with local government officials to discuss the vaccination process during the ECQ and to always respect the rights of the people, especially in dealing with violators. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Marita Muaje.
The Department of Transportation spearheaded the vaccination of transport workers at the Parañaque Integrated Terminal Exchange or PITX in Parañaque City. The vaccination drive called Superhero Kasangga ng Resbakuna targets to inoculate 6,000 individuals or 1,000 per week. Along with the vaccination, PITX says it will waive the terminal fees for buses and jeepneys starting August 2nd to cushion the impact of the pandemic on the public transport sector. The DOTR says the vaccination program for transport workers will initially be done in Metro Manila and nearby cities and will soon be implemented in other regions. Local officials ramp up their COVID-19 vaccination drive amid the threat of the COVID-19 Delta variant. In Quezon City, the local government targets to inoculate more workers while Manila City opens its drive-through vaccination site. More on these from Lade Cabagani.
In Quezon City, free routine testing is available for agencies, offices, and businesses to contain the spread of COVID-19 in workplaces. As of July 28, a total of 4,932 individuals from 29 agencies and businesses have been tested through the RT-PCR test. Of the total, 199 turned out positive and were taken to the city's Hope Quarantine facilities. Through expanded testing, Mayor Joy Belmonte said the city is assured that workers are not carriers of the virus and will not pose health risk to their families and communities. Meanwhile, Manila City opens its 27th vaccination hub and first drive-through site at the Carino Grandstand. The drive-through site will accommodate even non-Manila residents by schedule, while all other inoculation sites are on a first-come, first-served basis. 400 slots are initially allotted, but as many as 1,200 may be vaccinated daily in the coming days. And in Cotabato City, almost 45,000 have already been inoculated with the COVID-19 vaccine. Vaccinees belong in the A1 to A3 categories. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Lade Cabagani.
Still to come, local government units tightens their borders amid the threat of the COVID-19 Delta variant. And our very own Nesty Petecio goes for Olympic gold and glory tomorrow. Details ahead. This is the PNA Newsroom. The COVID-19 pandemic has greatly changed our lives for the worse. Lives and jobs were lost and economies reached a meltdown. Thanks to the arrival of safe and effective vaccines, we are one step closer to normalcy. It's time to do our part, get vaccinated for our safety and for our recovery.
You are there in that community, go there and have yourself vaccinated by any of the vaccines available. They are all potent, they are all effective.
I would like to appeal to all our kababayans, please get vaccinated against COVID-19 and be the government partner in preventing further spread of the disease. I encourage you to get vaccinated as soon as possible time. These vaccines are safe and they are the key to reopening our society. The need for international solidarity and cooperation cannot be made clearer than this pandemic, because everyone is safe. No one is safe globally until everybody is safe.
Vaccines work. Cebu Province has been downgraded to general community quarantine with heightened restrictions from August 1 to 15. Cebu City was earlier placed under the stricter Modified Enhanced Community Quarantine or MECQ until August 15, subject to appeal of the local government. Meanwhile, Apaya was placed from GCQ to MECQ from August 1 to August 15, 2021. Metro Manila will be placed under ECQ from August 6 to August 20, while Iloilo Province, Iloilo City, Cagayan de Oro City, and Gingoog City in Misamis Oriental have also been placed under ECQ from July 21 to August 7. Areas under MECQ until August 15 include the provinces of Ilocos Norte and Bataan Provinces, Lapu-Lapu City and Mandaue City. Areas under GCQ with heightened restrictions from August 1 to 15 include Bulacan, Cavite, Rizal, Ilocos Sur, Cagayan, Lucena City, Naga City, Bacolod City, Capiz, Negros Oriental, Zamboanga del Sur, Misamis Oriental, Davao City, Davao del Norte, Davao de Oro, Davao Occidental, and Butuan City. Meanwhile, GCQ without restrictions will be imposed from August 1 to 31 in Baguio City, Santiago City in Isabela, Nueva Vizcaya, Quirino, Quezon, Batangas, Puerto Princesa, Guimaras, Negros Occidental, Zamboanga Sibugay, Zamboanga City, Zamboanga del Norte, Davao Oriental, and Davao del Sur. General Santos City, Sultan Kudarat, Sarangani, North Cotabato, South Cotabato, Agusan del Norte, Surigao del Norte, Agusan del Sur, Dinagat Islands, Surigao del Sur, and Cotabato City in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao will also be put under regular GCQ for the entire month of August. The rest of the country will stay under MGCQ this month. As Metro Manila is to be under enhanced community quarantine starting August 6, several areas have tightened security in their own borders to stop the spread of the COVID-19 Delta variant. Chris Mundo has the story.
The Department of Health has called on local government units in the Bicol region to implement tighter border control measures to prevent the entry and spread of COVID-19, especially the more transmissible Delta variant. The DOH recommended a renewal of Bicol Pandemic Task Force's resolution, reminding local executives to tighten their checkpoints against the possible entry of people who tested positive for COVID-19. Barangay officials are directed to step up their contact tracing system in their respective communities. Politicians who have been extending assistance to villagers are meanwhile told not to hold big gatherings, as this can become super spreader events. Meanwhile, the local government of Nueva Ecija has reimposed strict border control until August 20 to prevent the spread of the Delta variant, even as the province remains under modified general community quarantine. The Nueva Ecija IATF, led by Governor Aurelio Umali, unanimously approved the reactivation of border control checkpoints around the province and uniform implementation of the modified GCQ. All travelers passing through, entering or leaving Nueva Ecija shall be required to present a negative antigen, saliva, or RT-PCR test result taken within the last 72 hours of travel. In Dumaguete City, authorities have advised parents to make sure their children stay home to prevent them from contracting the COVID-19 Delta variant. City health marshals are doing the rounds of the city to ensure that children age 17 and below and senior citizens 66 years old and above will remain in their homes. The province and the city are under GCQ with heightened restrictions from August 1 to 15. the first extension of this classification, which was imposed from July 16 to 31. In Zamboanga City, the local task force has announced the reimposition of the Sunday lockdown with modifications until August 15 due to the persistent threat of the Delta variant. Under this lockdown, only those heading to places of worship, health, disaster and security frontliners, and those involved in emergencies would be allowed to go out. Others are advised to stay at home, while children 17 years and below will not be allowed outdoors. This city will be under GCQ from August 1 to 31. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Chris Crismundo.
In sports, Nesty Petecio is one step closer to winning the country's first Olympic gold medal in boxing. Petecio will face Serna Iri of Japan in the women's featherweight final tomorrow, August 3 at the Kokugikan Arena. Iri previously beat Petecio twice at the Asia and Oceania Olympic boxing qualifiers in Jordan in March 2020 and earlier in the 2019 ASBC Asian Confederation Boxing Championships in Thailand. On the other hand, Petecio won against Senna in the quarterfinals of the 2019 IBA World Championships in Russia. Last Saturday, Petecio cut down Italy's Irma Testa in the semifinals for a guaranteed silver medal. Meanwhile, Carlo Paalam inched closer to having his own medal after dominating Algeria's Mohamed Flissi in their men's flyweight round of 16 affair. Paalam will face Uzbekistan's Shaki Hobidin Zoirov in the quarterfinals, also tomorrow, with the winner assuring himself of at least a bronze medal. Malacanang has hit back at Senator Minority Leader Franklin Drilon for claiming that the rewards of Olympic gold medalist Heidelin Diaz are tax-free. The palace said the monetary donations and rewards given to Diaz are not tax-free unless donors have already paid the donor's tax. Presidential spokesperson Secretary Harry Roque earlier said a new law may be needed to exempt Diaz from being taxed for her prizes and incentives. Drilon answered that Republic Act 10699 or the National Athletes and Coaches Benefits and Incentives Act already exempted all prizes and awards granted to athletes from income taxes. But Roque said there is still the donor's tax, which must be shouldered or paid by generous individuals or entities. On top of the cash prize from the government, Diaz is also expected to receive multi-million pesos worth of gifts in cash and in kind after bagging the country's first gold medal at the Tokyo Olympics. The Philippine Overseas Labor Office reminds everyone that the entry of Filipinos to Japan is still prohibited by the Japanese government. Labor Attaché Marie Rose Escalada said travel restrictions are still in effect against 154 nations, which include the Philippines. The Japanese government is implementing border restrictions, particularly for inbound passengers. However, there are no restrictions in place for outbound passengers. Escalada said those going back to the Philippines are reminded to follow the strict protocols set by the government or the interagency task force. Around 24,000 Filipinos are currently workers in Tokyo as of June. Up next, more than 250 people at the Tokyo Olympics have contracted COVID-19. And Ilocos Norte wastes no time in converting plastics into more useful eco-bricks. Back after a quick break, stay with the PNA Newsroom. You're still watching the PNA Newsroom. In our business news, any economic losses due to the upcoming 2-week enhanced community quarantine in the National Capital Region, or NCR, is expected to be positively offset by the final approval of the CREATE, or the Corporate Recovery and Tax Incentives for Enterprises Law. Rizal Commercial Banking Corporation Chief Economist Michael Ricafort said the CREATE law, the government's biggest stimulus, is projected to boost economic growth by up to 1% annually. Ricafort said the impact of the ECQ is also expected to be countered by an increase in infrastructure investment. He added that while the ECQ would reduce economic recovery prospects, it would ease the pressures on the peso. Ricafort said the lockdown coincides with a ghost month in some Eastern Asian countries, which means fewer economic activities. He said it would be a delicate balancing act for the government to address the rise of COVID-19 infections while limiting the hit on the economy. 5 disgruntled New People's Army rebels voluntarily surrendered to government troops in the hope of changing theirs and their families' lives. Lieutenant Colonel Julio Cesar Paulo, commander of the 23rd Infantry Battalion, welcomed the surrender of the 5 fighters who introduced themselves as members of the dismantled Guerrilla Front 4A of the NPA in Agusan del Norte. Paulo said the 5 former combatants could no longer endure the exploitation, deception, and treacherous propaganda of the Communist Party of the Philippines. The Guerrilla Front 4A suffered a major defeat in an encounter on May 10, 2020 in the boundary of Agusan del Norte and Misamis Oriental. The front disbanded after 15 of its fighters, including the top leaders, were killed. 6 NPA rebels, who were also remnants of the GF4A, surrendered to the unit on July 21. Paulo said the surrenderer is another serious blow to the ranks of communist terrorism. In our news overseas, a total of 259 people accredited for the Tokyo 2020 Olympics have reportedly contracted COVID-19. The organization committee confirmed that 18 additional people, including staff and officials, tested positive for the virus. No athlete competing has contracted COVID-19 in the past 24 hours. Meanwhile, the newly infected have been sent into quarantine. The 2020 Olympics hope to welcome spectators after being postponed last year due to the pandemic, but now it ended up holding competitions in empty venues because of the newly resurgent virus. Local carriers canceled a number of their domestic flights over the weekend as the government bans non-essential travel to and from the region. Philippine Airlines announced on Saturday that it was canceling its flights to and from Caticlan, Busuanga, Puerto Princesa, Cebu, Davao, Cagayan de Oro, Tagbilaran, Tacloban, Dipolog, Dumaguete, Calibo, Bacolod, and Siargao. Cebu Pacific and Cebgo also announced the stoppage of flights to Bohol, Clark, Coron, Naga, Osamis, Rojas, and San Jose in Mindoro. AirAsia, meanwhile, advised its guests to avail of flexibility options since only essential travel is allowed. Likewise, it reminded guests from NCR Plus, Cebu, and Davao City of the temporary suspension of inbound travel to Iloilo and Cagayan de Oro City from August 1 to 7. In a separate advisory, the Department of Tourism, or DOT, said leisure point-to-point flights are suspended for areas under general community quarantine with heightened restrictions. However, returning flights are allowed for tourists residing in the NCR Plus. Staycations and operations of indoor tourist attractions were likewise suspended, but those who are already checked in as of July 29 may continue their stay. Hotels outside of NCR Plus are also no longer allowed to accept leisure guests from the bubble beginning July 30. Meanwhile, the DOT urged stakeholders, particularly hotel operators, travel agencies, and airlines, to allow affected guests to rebook without charges. An eco-hub facility that can convert plastics into ecobricks is set to rise in Sitio Bato, Barangay Tonoton of Pidig Town, Ilocos Norte. The facility is a joint undertaking of the provincial and municipal governments and Ayala-led Renewable Energy Corporation Green Ants Builders. Once fully operational, the facility will be collecting and reusing discarded plastic materials and transform them into valuable resources like ecobricks for houses and buildings. Estrella Sacro, head of the Provincial Environment and Natural Resources Office, said that the project aims to reduce global plastic waste pollution. Green Ant's Chief Executive Officer Romel Benig said one eco-brick may consist of 50 to 100 plastics and is 5 times stronger than a typical hollow block. Some of the finished products have been tested in the construction of pavements in a school in Pagudpud as well as in other parts of the country. Let's take another look at today's biggest stories. Motorists are urged to stay calm as traffic buildup is expected in the coming days. More workers are getting inoculated as the DOTR led the shortest route to the vaccination hub. Our very own Nesty Petecio goes for Olympic gold and glory tomorrow. And Ilocos Norte wastes no time in converting plastics into more useful eco-bricks. As Filipinos, we all have a vital role to play in preventing the spread of COVID-19. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. For more news content, check our webpage or log on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC13. And as the world faces another surge in COVID-19 cases, we will also be entering into another round of enhanced community quarantine. We encourage everyone to be vigilant, everybody to cooperate. Together, we can beat the virus. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, we tell stories that inspire change. I am William Theo. Good day, stay safe, everyone.